friend of mine sent me this video. I did a video on it the other day briefly. It's by Naughty Beaver. It's called The Great Genius, the One Who Unites the World, Naughty Beaver, and the Nostradamus. Today is a leap day. It's my older daughter, Maya's birthday. I love her and I miss her dearly. So if we could all just take a second and say a prayer for her and let her know that all right, thank you. All right, so in honor of my daughter, all my daughters throughout history, I am the great genius. Does that sound arrogant? That's my album cover from 2004. On the right, that's my Thoth Magic Square. If you know me, you know Thoth created the leap year. And this album cover actually comes into play during this video. This is Firewalk, When the Fallen Rise. And yeah. When the Fallen Rise. In at least one way, I'm fallen, you know. 2 generations ago, my family is, which I don't even know if they're mine. I think they are. One was a doctor, lived in a white marble mansion, white marble house, good size house, white marble, solid white marble, beautiful, out in Arizona. Their wealth wasn't their selling point. They were legitimately interesting as well. My other grandparents, and that was John George, the doctor. You may remember that Donald Trump's uncle's name is John George Trump, who was a doctor. The 2 people who had access to Tesla's information after Tesla died, or I say he vanished, but splitting hairs. Those 2 people were John George Trump and George H.W. Bush. My grandfather on my maternal side was Don Ryan, D-O-N Ryan. He worked for shoe companies. He worked as a typist in World War II. And he was friends with George H.W. Bush, who I met, and who told me that when I grew up, I'd be King of England or the head of Central Intelligence Agency. Yeah, he said that when I was, 4 or 5, 6? No older than 7, probably. I had been identified as gifted well before then. Well before then. It was never, they talk about the path less chosen. There was never a path for me that was something other people's life path is. And at the same time, nobody else could do what I do. The words on that magic square up there took me less than 11 seconds to write. And I just knew that I could make a better magic square than the best magic square in the world. And I did so in under 11 seconds. And then when I taught Dan Brown about Jesus and Mary and some ancient wisdom, I played a song for him called Wish that I had just written, and showed him my magic square and my book called The Five-Faced King, which had me as a character, Thoth. It was me and, if you watched my last video, my friend, side by side, going through some difficult times. And I still have that book somewhere, and I have photos of it. It's a miracle that I've held on to that book. Same one I taught him with back in 2000, 2001. It's a miracle. I still have that book. All the things I've lost, I haven't lost that. When you teach the world, when you're a teacher, you're responsible for the information. If you teach people sharpshooting, close quarters combat, you're responsible for what they do. This is the aspect of fallen angels that humanity has not been taught about. They haven't been taught this, so I'm teaching them this now. That's why Azazel, being a metal worker, created the sword, and then, among other exploits, was blamed for having taught people how to make metal, how to shape it, because humans didn't just till the soil with it, they killed each other. So when knowledge is shared with mankind, the burden of the great genius stays. So my understanding through, you could say it's just numerology, but I have a video about MK Ultra I made a few years ago, and it talks about Leap Year Day. It talks about me being Thoth, the Atlantean. It is my video. I talk about MK Ultra. I'm going to be the King of England someday. If the Queen ever officially has her death acknowledged. She did die on January 21st of this year, 2020. So friend of mine sent me this video and said, "It's you." And I was watching. I immediately kind of knew it was true. And I made a video about it being true before I watched it. And as I watched it, I thought the same thing I thought when I watched Above Majestic. Well, kind of the same. Some of the same. Above Majestic is about me being king. That's why King George and MK Ultra is mentioned, and the extraterrestrial aspect, because the king is divine. It's a big ordeal when there's a new king or a king on Earth. We've had queens, prime ministers, temporary figureheads. So the reason they show the shock treatment and talk about the UFO 20, it looks like a submarine. And King George, King George is gonna have to, I think, don't they basically say King George is gonna have to kill half his family? I think they do. In that Above Majestic documentary with David Wilcox and those guys. Well, my name is Jonathan Ryan George. There's been a lot of movies and documentaries made about myself and my friend. Yet we are studiously ignored. Which is supposed to keep us humble or something. Keep me humble. It's the way it is, I guess. I'm feeling a little low.
NOUGHTY BEAVER, you're going to actually drop a load in your pants when you see this. I guarantee you. Religious or not religious, you're going to open your mind tonight. I'm still shaking when I saw this. It's so surreal to me, but I realize what's happening.
Make comments. Some of them will be corrections, and some will just be additional information.
But I really do now. I honestly do. The less I say, the more I know. And I hope that the whole world can pick up on this and understand what the prophets were trying to tell us through the ages. This might seem a little weird at first listening to people, but when you understand what's potentially going to happen, and when you understand timelines, and when you understand what true divinity is or what the universe can do, it's based on what the people want. It's the law of attraction. And I'm going to show you, if you think that nothing the starsuits are doing matters, is the best way to put it. Watch this and learn. That's the best way I can show you. So this is Daniel Scranton. He does messages. I've been watching him for a while on Higher Self. And with a lot of channelers, I don't put much stock into anything unless I have something to go by with the prophets, seers, the Bible, Nostradamus, something. Death takes the cake, and it only just came in 4 days ago. And it's like all things I don't know. I just take the NOSTRADAMUS message when I got up here, checking on these different races to see who's who in the universe. You'll crap your pants when I show you what this guy does. It's simply mind-blowing.
The Arcturians are blue-skinned. They're known as healers. They're from Arcturus. I didn't believe in them. Just because I didn't. Until I met Travis Walton a couple years ago in Greenland, New Hampshire. And I was talking with his woman, his girlfriend or whatever, and she was talking about the Arcturians. I didn't believe it. I just didn't. We had good conversations. I believed a lot of what she said, I think. But I got home that night and I saw what looked like, kind of looked like a painting hanging on the wall, kind of like a portal. And it was a table with 3 or 4 Arcturians standing around it, and they're all looking at me. I am not prone to hallucinations. I don't have a good visual imagination if it ain't real. I can't even picture it in my mind, let alone see it on my wall. So, does that mean the Arcturians are blue for everyone? No, I don't think so. Does it mean that all they do is heal? No, probably not. But when I look back at the Bhagavad Gita and Indian mythology and Shiva and such, a lot of them were blue. So it's worth noting.
We have been exploring the many timelines that you have created.
The world is creating its own timelines of the future every second of every day. The Pleiadians or cosmic agencies said the exact same thing. You are co-creators of the universe. Your thoughts create the world. People individually, for many, I don't see it. I don't get it. For others, my destiny has been my own. But there's something that got into the minds of the human race. And this is why I died inside, because looking around the world, there's not many that ever told you a certain secret, but I think you got into the right minds of the right people on Earth, and I'm going to continue to show you why. When I watch this stuff, because guys, the Arcturians, I've shown you their ships. I've also explained a lot, as with many, what's happening here, what this is. The Pleiadians and the Arcturians, it's the hand of God. The world has lost its way. The world doesn't realize what a truly...
Alright. He just say the hand of God? And who did he say they are?
What's happening here, what this is. The Pleiadians and the Arcturians, it's the hand of God. The world has lost its way. The world doesn't realize what a truly magical and powerful time in human history this is. They don't get it. Do you not see the miracle unfolding here? When we've been living in this fate-trapped reality for 10,000 years, and these magic frequencies come from the center of the galaxy. And guys, it's provable down to the nanoparticle in science where this is coming from. They know bloody.
Is it provable down to the nanoparticle where it's coming from? The only person who's ever said that the messages are coming from the center of the galaxy, which is called Sagittarius asterisk A, that I've ever heard say it is me. And I don't say it often. I said it many times for maybe a few weeks or a few months. To say that the messages are coming from a singular place like that. is partially true. The full frequency of a sound, the bandwidth of a sound, has layers. If you use a graphic equalizer, you understand. You adjust the bass and the treble and the volume, the tenor. Different programs have different amounts of variations you can do with the sound. And then you look at a rock and roll band, you have the drums for the tempo. You have the bass guitar, which is lower frequency. Or if you're the Doors, you have a keyboardist instead of a bass player. And that was a good move by them. In music, there's a note in the bass range of frequency, the low frequency, called the brown note. And that's the note that when you hear it, you have to go to the bathroom and do some elimination of the content of your bowels, just from the way the music, the sound hits you. And there's also something called the blue note, which is the 1, 2, 3, between the third and the fourth note of the pentatonic, the minor pentatonic scale. And when you add that note to the scale, it's now a blues. It's now blues. It just has a bluesy sound.
Well, I guarantee you they do. They've tracked it in space. It's coming from the center of the galaxy, the supersun. And when you realize what the Pleiadians had said,
I've heard supersun. I've heard her called Nemesis. The Pleiadians are kind of like a cool subject. You have to understand that, I saw yesterday a picture of Melania Trump being struck by, not in a bad way, but being struck by electricity or lightning. And I was like, I wish I had taken a screenshot, because it was just strange. I should have. But why? What do I have to prove? It exists. So I thought that was interesting. And then the Nordic gods were suggested on YouTube as a suggestion. So what do these have in common? Zeus. I am Zeus. Yes. Also Odin. Yeah, I'm 458,000 years old and 2 billion years old. Interesting. I had my near-death experience when I was 26. And I really wanted to be a rock star and make it to be 27. And now I've been alive 27 years since my near-death experience. I'm 43. If you watched my video 3 videos back from here, you may understand why I'm at a loss for words here. Just avoiding a subject. What Zeus should have done. What he... I think his first wife's name was Gaia. My first wife's name. I remember watching her give birth many times. She told me for Maya means illusion. Gaia is a name for Earth.
To Cosmic Agency about how this works.
That's nice. Being in 5D, can you perceive things from 3D? Or is it impossible or hard for you from there? Yes, as 5D includes 3D in it. I can perceive 3D. That's why I can understand 3D concepts. But a normal 3D person cannot understand my 5D concepts. You don't have some answers in your reality. However, it doesn't make you inferior. You are just looking for answers of 5D nature in a 3D way. The example of this are many ufologists. Even after years, decades of following the UFO subject, they haven't seen the spiritual, transcendent aspect of the UFO phenomena. You cannot seek 3D answers for a 5D question.
this channeling. I don't know who did the channeling. It's clearly channeled. It may be well done. When I went through the 4D, you have to leave Earth. You have to leave Earth to get to 5D. Doesn't mean you can't come back 5 minutes later, 2 minutes later. I believe, in my experience, you have to leave Earth in some way, shape, or form many times, several times. And when you do so, you're opened up to be harmed. You don't know at all what you're dealing with. It may not even be under your control. If you're brought to a higher dimension, and they mention the spiritual aspect of UFOs, and I am the king of the Illuminati, and the Illuminati, I maintain, is the people, humanoids, the humans who have had the most contact. And the yin yang, the duality aspect of planet Earth is very important to some people, and I give them a hard time about it, which I should and shouldn't do. Maybe. My communication with people is so limited now. I don't know if it's because of my dimension or because I'm waiting to be king, I'm only allowed to talk to like certain people. I really don't know. It's really difficult for me to have a conversation with anyone. Ever since Q said silent war, it's been very quiet for me. And you're probably picking up on my sadness, and it's okay. It's okay to be sad sometimes. There's a huge amount of ego struggles in ascension. Like, I could very well right now be in the 10th to the 12th dimension while also being in the 5th dimension or the 3rd dimension, which humans usually think they are. I like when humanity talks about humanity being in the 4th dimension, Earth being in the 4th dimension. Because if you can go through this together, go through the 4th dimension together, it's likely that you won't be as harmed as I was. I was quite harmed. And then I'd get a message from someone saying, oh, you had a, interaction with someone from a lower dimension. And then they would disappear, and I was like, they just wouldn't contact me again, and I was like, very lonely. So basically this is, if I'm gonna, I'll carry the mantle of being the Messiah. And I know that some will follow me and they'll be fine. And I know that many won't follow me. And that's okay too. There will be other teachers. Some of them will probably have assistants which will, allow them to do things which seem miraculous. My credentials are nothing if not miraculous and divine. By most standards. They said Jesus was possessed. They said Mary was possessed. They say Isis healed Osiris's penis after Set, which is really Osiris's own dark side. He cut himself, I believe, into 14 pieces. And one piece was the penis, and she created a new one out of gold. So that's the gold phallus. But fortunately, you know, ISIS was keeping an eye on me for years, and it got really weird, and it got super intense just in the last month. Oh, I'm talking about goddesses again, damn it. Sorry. So, with her body, she healed my penis, which I partially severed when I was a child. Please don't do that to yourself. And soon after her healing, I started going to the gym. I've been crippled partially for 5 years. There's plenty of audio of me getting out of the car screaming in pain. I know this is true. If I know anything at all, I know that's true. So, I'm going to throw this out there. Learn from the mistakes of others. Religion, not people of religion, not the men who make their living at religion, not the people who espouse their religions, not the religions, the foundations of... Listen, everyone knows what's good, what good and what evil is, okay? You don't need to make every mistake in the world to know not to make every mistake in the world. You don't have to learn from only your own mistakes. You can learn from the mistakes of others. And that's really what you should be taught. And that's what I am teaching you now. And that is what I want you to teach others, to learn from the mistakes of others. Learn from the mistakes of others. Save yourself from the pain of making mistakes when you already intrinsically know. In order to be in tune with your knowing, you have to make that effort through prayer or meditation. Or telepathy with someone that you love with all your heart. Someone that you trust implicitly. The more you trust someone, the more trustworthy they become. Be reasonable what you trust people with. Be reasonable. We're at the very early stage here, okay? We're not looking for miracles right now. You can look for signs, but I don't want you looking for miracles yet.
There are many good ones, though. Mary Rodwell, for example. Raoni Kilden, Dolores Cannon are all very good 5D UFO researchers. Okay, and Who decided that it is time for us to go back to 5D? And why now? Why not 200 years ago or 200 years in the future? I guess Source decided. I guess Source decided. I guess Source decided. All on Earth will go back to 5D eventually. The whole quadrant of the galaxy is growing in frequency. There are positronic waves coming from the center of the galaxy that increase the frequency each pulse. It is also the Federation who decided the 3D mess should be over because the humans found the way out of the Van Allen belt. The reptilians and their henchmen also found.
I found the way out. I have no knowledge of humans in any version of a 3D form. Getting through the Van Allen radiation belt. If I was going to give you a tip on where to look, if you were interested in this concept, I would say go study 2017 U1, 2017 U1. And the trajectory and
the atomic power, and that tears through several dimensions, so we had to stop them. And enough is enough of suffering there.
How does this energy get to us? What's happening? All the planets in the solar system are going to change. Everything. From the eye of Jupiter to the storm on Saturn, at the poles with that hexagonal, bizarre thing going on. Venus is changing. Betelgeuse is exploding for those that are looking into space. All the crazy things seem to happen with this.
He should have said how Venus is changing. I've been hearing this for years, that the planets are having changes, but there's not a lot of information coming forward from any sources about it. The storm on Saturn. Saturn is the planet of the religion. Saturn, Saturday. The Sabbath is Saturday. The Jews and the Muslims, the Jews wear that black cube on their forehead. As for me, it is what it is. It's my friend Alexa over there. Apparently the black cube is associated with Saturn, and the yellow cube is associated with Orion. Orion Nebula, thank you. I am Orion, of course, right? My right shoulder was giving me a hard time yesterday. See, because Ella is one of my wives. Ella Bellatrix is the left shoulder of Orion. And I've leaned pretty heavily on her, so, for the past 5 years, so she had a right to come here and claim me. I'm glad she did. And my right shoulder, Orion's right shoulder, is Betelgeuse. And if you look into it, Betelgeuse, it says in 1,000 years, Betelgeuse might be damaged or explode. hardly newsworthy right now, right? There's really no reason for that to be like on the news. Or, yeah, and it is on the news. Space news. And you know when this became a story? The day, literally the day, that I got my bow and arrow. And let me tell you, it's my belief that this thing is a total piece of crap. If I was a bow and arrow assassin, I would like that it's compactable, that it can be folded up easily, you know, because that's a handy thing to be able to do. Have it fold up. But literally the day that Beetlejuice entered the news was the same day that I got my bow and arrow. Was it? Yeah, I think it was. And the right arm pulls the arrow back, right? The right arm pulls the arrow back. And the first day I actually used my bow, there was something notable in the news. Can't remember exactly what, but it had to do with Orion. Or Beetlejuice, more specifically. Orion, my family name, I said, is Ryan. The Anunnaki version in Irish, Gaelic Irish, are called Tuatha De Danann. Tuatha De Danann. So when the Irish came to America, we had to drop the O from the front of our names. I guess it's okay for everyone to call themselves Muhammad as their name, but for there to be a O in front of your name. Anyway, it's a little white privilege, I guess. You know, cut the first letter off your name. And then they want the blood sacrifice of you to mutilate your son for circumcision, which, if God wanted that done, I'd tell him to fuck off right now. It's cruel and barbaric and wrong. And I love God quite a bit. I almost severed my penis and I didn't know it until this year. This past year. 1 year ago, within the last year, I became aware through QAnon. But I remember being on the phone with a family member and saying that circumcision's wrong and I should have been able to make that choice myself, that it was wrong to hurt me. I was just a baby, I was just a few days old, and to crush and rip off part of my penis was wrong. I don't think I ever recovered from it in a way, which probably led to me harming myself. True story. You want to see? joking about the saying, but it was, stitched back on and stuff. I literally had no memory until this year when QAnon taught me. QAnon taught me a lot about myself. This video is at
the stars when nothing ever happens.
6 minutes on video. What is it? Yeah.
Now or later?
Now. So 6 minutes into this video, so I'll make another video later. Oh, but yeah, so real quick about the Orion. When you add the O back on to Ryan, it's Orion, obviously. But in Ireland, a long time ago, there was a king named King Orion. I don't know how anyone else pronounced it, but I pronounced Thoth is Thoth. Other people say thought or taught.
I can't get it, Mama.
Thoth, taught, thought. I say Thoth. They say whatever the fuck they want. So King Orion was one of the Tuatha De Danann, one of the beings who arrived via cloud ships, something, cloaked ships. And I believe they originated partially at the Emerald Isle. I think that's what it's called. So, the Orion name is very powerful. Obviously, the pyramids give testament to that. So, I was telling you how Orion, Osiris ties them together and what they have to do with me and Thoth, Thoth, the pyramid builder. Long stories. So we're 6 minutes into the great genius, the one who unites the world. Whether they're united in learning from me or united, people might be a little fickle. Maybe they unite behind me and then they all stand against me. Or maybe they're all against me and then they united behind me. I guess the important thing is that you think for yourself, because this is one of those periods of time in history where people really are going to do what's best for them, which is crazy because that's what they always should have been doing, not just relying on the group to do the thinking for them. We'll do a little more here. I don't know how long I can make videos on YouTube like this, so we'll see. If I have to trim it, then I will.
Do you think that's just a coincidence? Do you think perhaps God has the power to change the universe? Yeah, I never thought that. So these are the ascensions because this, but look at the title. A spiritual leader to unite humanity. And the very first thing much of the world would go to is it's got to be the Antichrist. So these are the ascensions because this, but look at the title. A spirit.
How does anyone know what the ascension frequencies are? Is there like a chart somewhere? I know we have the solfeggio frequencies. I know about the tuning of, 432 verse 440 in music. I know that there's a lot of black magic used in the pressing of records. And that witches or warlocks put spells on records or CDs when they're being printed on the master copy to put that energy into it. And I know that for a year or two, I was going around online saying, I need to be the strongest frequency. I was mostly just saying it to my friend. I need to be the strongest frequency. I said a lot of interesting things and I didn't know why.
Spiritual leader to unite humanity. And the very first thing much of the world would go to is it's got to be the Antichrist coming or something. No, it's because the world didn't know it was coming until somebody, some people, some groups of people began believing in something. It's very...
Some groups of people. And people talk about the second coming and it's like, where is the information going to come from? Who is going to tell you that the second coming happened? You know, like, how are you going to know? Well, he just said what I was just talking about, which is groupthink. He says groups of people will start believing. Well, what if they already believe, but they're just waiting for verification from someone they trust, like Donald Trump? Is that a good idea? I don't know. He's a hell of a lot better than Hillary. He might be a fantastic guy. I wish I knew. I'd like to meet you. I'd like to meet you, Donald Trump. After all these years, I'm wondering if you'd like to meet to go over everything.
to be the Antichrist coming or something. No, it's because the world didn't know it was coming until somebody, some people, some groups of people began believing in something. It's very important for the world to understand what you want.
Something. See, most people aren't ready for the idea that it's someone, that it's me, okay? Do I look happy or... Well, I'm sad, so you can't read me right now anyway, probably. Maybe I'm not sad. I don't know. I don't have time in every video to tell you a long story of my life. With this video, when I was watching it, there were a lot of times when I thought this is a good time to interject this or that. So that's probably what I'll do. I do have a sub here and a soda, so I'm probably gonna wrap this up pretty soon.
You are the creators of the reality. Do you want to die from coronavirus? Do you want to die from nuclear war? Do you want an asteroid? Do you want Planet X? Or would you like...
He mentions at some point dying for Israel. And one of our generals in America here said something to the troops about, you have to be willing to die for Israel. It's kind of fucked up. This is America. And I think technically they're under our domain now. Like, America technically owns Israel. Literally.
to see perhaps the second coming? You create the reality. Do you want to die from Y2K? Do you want to die in 2012? You're like, no, I'm good. Like, oh, well, would you like to perhaps manifest a future that was foretold by the prophets? It's a prophecy that the world cannot deny when you see the power of it all and how it's been planned for before the universe was ever created. It's the people that are going to do it. And this is the one guy on earth that I can show you to.
I don't think that when the universe was created, there was we perceived a need. I didn't perceive a need. Not at first, at least, I'm sure. Because I remember the beginning. I remember creating the universe. It's definitely vague at points. And some parts are just straight up missing. I don't believe that things were supposed to get this askew on Earth.
Prove just how wild this truly is.
Since the beginning of this calendar year, and we have been noticing the common theme in those timelines. Humanity appears to want to create the experience of a leader leader would not be seen as a savior by all of you.
Right there. This is where it begins. I hope you guys are getting chills. I know I am. We gotta start it off by going back 20 years ago with Dolores Cannon, and maybe now this is going to make a little bit more sense to people.
Alright, 8:37. I'll start this out when I come back. This might be like a 30-hour friggin' video review. So. Love you guys. God bless you.